conference. Like, meet him? Yeah, okay.
Hello? Perfect. Welcome. Thank you for having me, and thank you for surviving this amazing 2 days. It was very cool. Thank you. Minsk is lovely, and the conference is very, very cool. So, I'm Ivan. I work at Clue with Eugenio. We basically work on a health tracking app that basically help female to track moods, pain, any sort of activities in their lives. So today we are gonna talk about readability because it's an important topic and it's something that takes a few years to get to you, but the truth is that you read a lot more than you write code. This is something that happens in every project, every stage of your life. You will never write something once and never look at it again. There is no such thing as bug-free code. You always write something and iterate. And even if you are the first one on the project, for instance, Clue is the perfect example of startup, and Clue for Android is the perfect startup project, basically. In the beginning is just one developer. It was just Eugenio. And you are in a startup, the startup mindset, you code, you ship. Everything has to be fast, delivery, everything, yeah, time to market. And then people come and the team grows. And if you are not careful with your code base, it's difficult to onboard people and it's difficult to share the code base with other people. But you are careful, so everything is fine. Kinda. Yeah, you were super fine. Thing is, reality is a bit different because when I started university, the first thing they told me was, when you write something, it's just you and God that know about how the thing works. 2 weeks later, it's just God. So, I mean, it's not my quote, of course, but it's something that we can relate because we can't remember everything. You can't remember any single piece of your code base. And even if you do, you have to pass this information, this knowledge to your colleagues, and it takes time if you have to explain everything every time you onboard people. So we start from something that's very easy and it's very common comments. Basically, small chunk of text that you put every now and then to describe things in your code base. And they can be very useful, but they can be actually very tricky to use because they can be very, very pointless after a while. If you forget about them, you don't maintain your comments, they go out of sync, the code doesn't match anymore, and they basically move from something that was okay, useful, to something that it's pointless at some point, to something that it's dangerous because it's misleading. The API is used, for instance, in the wrong way. So let's assume that we do it in the right way. How do we do it? What to comment? My experience is comment something that you think it's important for you to provide the same context and the same amount of knowledge that you have right now to the next developer. Important, comment the why and not the what. I mean, we can read code, we can read syntax. After a while, we are very, very fast to recognize keywords and stuff. But the thing is, even after half a day of work, you came up with these 3 beautiful lines of code. If you don't put that process in writing in a different way, you are not conveying the information. I will never know what's the reasoning behind that 3 lines of code. I will probably figure it out after a while. I mean, I can read, I can reason about it, but again, it's wasting my time, or we are using my time as a next developer in an ineffective way. So if you find a solution and it's the 4th one after iteration because things weren't working, please, if you think that it can be useful for me, put a small comment there. Comment magic constants. They are everywhere. Basically, most of the time they are kind of try and error things. They came at some point in the code base from somewhere. Everything is cool if you are writing them today and you are using them today. The thing is, they are just numbers most of the time. They lack completely the context. And in my experience, they come with kind of expiration date. So after more or less 50 hours, nobody knows anything about those comment constants anymore. So, I mean, even if it's something very simple like, yeah, my desk has 4 legs and now we are using 8 threads, or 42 because, I mean, this is over commenting because 42 is kind of, you can get it. So, but again, you give us a little piece of context, and that thing will stay there forever, and it will be useful forever. Use common markers. They are basically very, very supported by the editor. The to-do is quite useful. We don't use it so much in IntelliJ, even if there is a nice support. When we use it, most of the time we put also the Jira card number there, so you have this double reference to the code and the task that you are supposed to do. If it's an improvement, it's even better because you can have, you know, like an improvement board, whatever. So nobody will never look at it because there's no time. Hack. This works, but it's kind of hacky. I get it. I mean, things can get a bit hacky over time. Every now and then you see some solution on Stack Overflow that works. We don't know why. And Android it's a weird platform. But the thing is, I can live with that. If you put something in the code that explain why you did something hacky, we don't have to hate you forever. You know, every time I open the file, okay, no, there was a reason. This thing is here for a reason. So I won't stab you in the kitchen. You know, so here, Build Dragons. This is my favorite one, and thank you for the warning. I will never open the file ever again. So I will. Let's assume the API is effective. I don't want to know about the implementation. So now we can use comments, but what we don't comment is constructor, getter, setters. Band functions name are a very interesting case because the moment you feel the need to comment a signature, that's the perfect moment to fix it because probably it sucks. So fix the function name instead of trying to make sense out of it with comments. And everything that can be inferred from the context. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't comment easy stuff. There is no easy or hard per se. It's a very relative concept. The thing is, it's more gut feeling. If you think that comment will help your colleagues, your next colleague, put the comment there. And this is something that I like very much. Take a minute to write the comment in the proper way. Don't be the smart, funny guy. We don't want to work with that people. I mean, if this thing is going to blow up the moment I start a new thread or I do something crazy, be kind. Why should you? I mean, I like jokes. Keep them for the coffee break. You are a professional. Act as a professional. So, comments, now we are super confident with comments. Variables, they are everywhere. We cannot live without variables. They're pure love. But sometimes they kind of look like this. Tump, Readable, just letters, foo. The thing is, if they don't deserve a decent name, can you think about, probably I don't need this variable, or, I mean, think about, or try to pack as much information you have in the name. If temp is actually temporary, so you need to convey the fact that it's a temporary variable for some reason, temp probably is a good name. If you're returning a list of employees, why don't you just call them employees? Why, Readable is something that is very used in the C# community. Readable all the place. When I worked on, .NET, it was interesting. And loops indexes. I mean, they can improve readability very much, and they can be very useful. I get that now we are all Kotlin, all the things, maps, for each, whatever. We don't do, every now and then we do for loops. And we have this kind of muscle memory to just throw in letters as indexes for every member, every club, every town, do something. Very classic, but how about this? I mean, if you just rename the index to something that kind of match the name of the list, the readability is improved. And it's not that, big effort to rename one single letter to something that conveys more meaning. And so back to the single one, can you tell me if it's the same code of 2 slides ago? Is it, or it isn't? It isn't. You see? So this is a nice catch, and because you are relaxed and you are just watching a talk. If you are stressed and you are working on a real day job, it's not so easy to spot. If you are reviewing code, it's not so easy to spot. Why should I spot it? Why don't you name something in a better way? If we use the proper variables and I misplace them, can you see it? I mean, can you see the disturbance in the force when you are trying to iterate a members list with a club index? I mean, okay, it's just an int, it will work eventually, but readability is something that can be improved very, very easily. It's just a mindset. So, still 2 variables. If pair left split at 0 equal to root, what? I mean, why? Whoa, what? This is something that was in the code base. I wrote this and I was like, okay, now I kind of split the thing out. Wait, why? Stop it. Let's try something different. Turns out the left thing, it's an email. Wow, astonishing. So, okay, I figured it out. I put a to-do, I create a Jira card. Can we just fix this and make it a data class out of it? Done. Let's move on. Username, now we have the email. I can split the @ I take the first element of the array. It's kind of work, it's still a bit ugly. Kotlin for the win. Now I have a data class, I can create an extension function to username split, and now I have username, email to username, pure love. The final version is I have an email, I have a username, I have the same if then else that I had before. Looks a bit nicer. And yes, we have new variables. Yes. We have new classes. Yes. Method that we didn't have. Yes. Overall, we have more stuff. But the thing is, if I give you this code, I don't need to explain you anything. You will figure it out because it's easier to understand. Because I made the effort to make it simple for the next one. And it's worth it. It's just worth it. Over time, long-term game, team that grows, it's worth it. Same thing here. Request ID equal to document ID user if then else. I mean, I can read it, but how about this? I mean, it's just a Boolean. If user owns the document, do something or don't. Is it necessary variable? Are we reusing it in another place? No. From a university academic point of view, that thing is pretty useless because we are not reusing it anywhere else. But again, improves readability, and that's the effort that we want to make into the code base. And we got the happy smiley, so I mean, has to be good. Functions, functions. This is the nice one. Try to pack as much information as you can in the signature. We have a delay function, and we pass an amount of delay as an int. So what's the unit? It's second, milliseconds, nanoseconds, years. So let's check the Java doc. That's perfect. You press something in IntelliJ, the Java doc shows up, and if there is a comment in the Java doc, if you are lucky enough, you will figure it out, and you know now that it's a second. So you want to improve the code base, you want to convey as much information as possible in the signature without altering the signature. So we put seconds in there. I mean, it's slightly better, but I don't know you. I cannot live with underscores in names. So what can we do without change the signature? Because if I create a data class and I replace the int with something that looks like a unit, time unit, every single consumer of my API will just try to kill me the next time, because I'm changing the API, so I will messing up with their code. If you're lucky enough to be using Kotlin, we can use type aliases. So you create something that is just called seconds. Actually, it's just an int. And now the signature is the same. If we are using an int, it will still work. If you want to use a second, it will still work. But the thing is, I don't need, I mean, yes, probably I still need to figure out what I'm delaying, but that's not the case. I know for sure that I need to pass a second, or something that I know that will represent a second. And of course can be applied to other examples. I mean, what the unit size what? Kilobytes, megabytes, terabytes, I don't know, bread, potato, something. Megabytes. And again, the signature is way, way more readable than before. And I don't need to, actually, if it's create cache, I don't need to explain you that I'm creating a cache of 3 megabytes. It's there. The information is already there. Random tips about functions. Make them small, reusable. Make them pure if you can. I mean, dependencies in, results out, no side effect. I mean, you cannot do it everywhere, but if you can do it, they are testable. If you have tests, you kind of sleep at night. Everything is very, very healthier. Just one more example with variables name. Boolean addition, we can call it Boolean addition. So, I have read password equal true. Okay, so read password or read password? Should I read the password or I already read the password? I mean, this is just English messing with us, I get it. But I cannot code in Italian, so the thing stays. So needs password true, user is authenticated true. Way better. But we are using 2 Booleans, so you can always give me crap about, oh yeah, but now you're using 2 Booleans. And this is a nice moment to think about, are you using the right data structure? Is probably that Boolean misused or abused somehow? How about something that resemble an object instead of just true false? And still, Booleans, disable SSL, false. Don't use negative logic. I mean, think positive. I mean it. Use positive terms. It's easier for your brain to figure it out if you're just saying something in a positive, happy path way. And the thing is, naming is hard. It's probably one of the hardest things that you can do because it doesn't affect you right now. Like, you can survive with bad index names. I mean, if it's just in the moment, everything is fine. I mean, you can call A, B, C, whatever. I don't care. The thing is, we won't work alone. We don't work alone. Even if you are just you in 2 weeks, you are basically a colleague or somebody that wrote the thing 2 weeks ago. So it's something that takes time, takes energy, and actually quite often we end up brainstorming on signatures, thinking, two people thinking about how we should name this thing, and you are like, no, I don't like it. Yeah, but this doesn't work. Semantically, you start getting all philosophic about but because it's a hard thing to do, and you cannot do it alone if you don't have a habit or a specific mindset. So tips. If then else, I mean, you can tell me that the first one is the right one, don't you? I mean, seriously, this thing is just, my OCD is just, I'm just having a stroke. The thing, can we make a rule out of it? Yeah, pretty easy. The left part is the part that changes. The right part is kind of the part that stays the same. Very easy, something that you can share with your colleagues instead of having weird things in the code reviews. Something that I get very often as question is, how about, if then else order, how do you put the stuff? These are not rules, they are not carved in stone. They are more patterns that we saw over time. And most of the time we have the positive case first, or the simple one first, or the interesting one first. Or we have, for instance, something every now and then you have that if null return, and then you go below, so you have the one that returns earliest first. It's more like a gut feeling, you have to practice. But most of the time, the positive first is the one that it's more the popular one. So if then else or ternary operator, I mean, it's super cool, this whole crazy thing that one line. The thing is, you don't need to be necessarily super smart. I mean, you are not. Why would you show off with your colleagues? Why put me in a wrong place just to show me that you can write something very complex in one line? Lines are free. And if something is in one line and can be rewritten on more lines to make it easier to read, so I don't need to, again, hate you all the time because I'm wasting 15 minutes to figure out this brilliant ternary operator. I mean, true story. I work in a place, they were passing ternary operators as parameters. Seriously. I mean, imagine the thing. You are not passing a variable. You are passing an expression in just because I'm so cool. And then you quit. And that's it. You cannot educate them all. The thing is, takes a lot of... you need to be humble. You need to trust your team, because if you work in the wrong place and you feel this constant need to demonstrate that you are cool, it's not good for the project. So I want to give you a real-world example. This is something that everybody has. If you have something that has profile, user profile, login, whatever, you have a user profile somewhere. And the user profile, this can be pretty standard, 3 strings, nothing fancy. We have a data class, and at some point we create a new object, we save the user profile, and we want to obtain the user profile. How can we obtain the user profile? Very easy, get user. We have a function that returns that kind of object. Okay, so now let's start thinking about semantics. Get user, it looks like a getter. No? It's like, are we actually getting a property of somebody else? I mean, it's a field somewhere. I'm quite confident that the user profile is coming from a backend. First guess, backend. So it's network. How about I'm fetching the user from the backend? If I give you fetch user, it's very network-oriented meaning. You kind of see it that it's not something that is in cache, for instance. Even better, download user. This is definitely coming from the internet. I'm downloading the user. But what if you have actually some kind of cache layer, or you have a database, you have a repository pattern that you don't want to know if it's coming from the database or the network. So let's go with load user. It's kind of generic. You know that's coming from somewhere below. We trust the abstraction layer. Everything is cool. Eventually, you can look into the implementation, and you will find probably a fetch user and a load from database user, or get user if you have it in a in-memory cache. The thing is it blocking or not blocking? Looks blocking. Okay, is it coming from the network? If it's coming from the network, is it nice to have a blocking network call? Okay, we are lucky enough that Android will just slap us a spam network on main thread exception. It's probably the only usable thing that we have from the platform. The thing is, if you're loading from a database, you don't know. If you don't enable some strict mode, strict mode, strict mode, whatever, something. I mean, strict mode will tell you that you are wasting times because you're doing things on the main thread. So we can improve the signature somehow. Let's try a couple of possibilities. Callback, we pass a callback. Okay, it's kinda synchronous, not blocking. Probably looks like a JavaScript, probably is asynchronous. We don't know. Probably the whole thing is running on a background thread and the callback comes back to the main thread. We don't know. We actually can just look at the documentation. The observable, it's a different story because this one, it's definitely blocking. So there's nothing that you can do. But you can make it work on another thread. So we kind of subscribe on I always manage to put some RX Java in my slides. So the idea, even if it's blocking, I can push it on another thread and everything. Everybody, happiness all over the place. The thing is, start looking at the thing. So I have a load user function that returns an observable of user. Can you see the semantic problem here? That's right. This thing is supposed to be a sequence. I'm not returning 10 users profile. I just need one single user profile once. We can improve the signature. We replaced single. Okay, I get it. We hate it. But again, it's there for a reason. It's just pure semantics. Right now, I will say that this is the final implementation of our function, easy function to get the profile. So we have a data class with 3 strings. took us 4, 5 iterations to get to a meaningful name, because I don't want to tell you that I'm loading this thing and you will be better to do it on a background thread. 4 iterations just to obtain a user profile. Yes, naming is hard. So we are wrapping this up. These are tips that we basically share these values in Clue. First of all, Yagni, you are not gonna need it. Seriously, do not over-engineer things. I get I'm designing and I'm building the most future-proof. No. We have to ship stuff. Keep it simple. I get it. We want quality, but again, keep it simple. Do not over-engineer everything. Not everything has to be a generic, Eugenio. I mean, we can have types. Not everything. Yeah. Yes. Jokes aside, keep your code base small. I mean, people they are afraid of libraries, but we have an amazing community. If you need something and there is a library for that, and definitely there is a library for that, if it's open source, if it's well tested, if you can contact the maintainer, if there is at least 1,000 stars on GitHub, because otherwise, come on, seriously. Be mindful with your code base. It's not a crime to rely on other people that can spend more time than you can spend on libraries. We are shipping our own encryption library. Yeah, sure. Good luck with that. Create a routine of removing bad code. This is something that we are lucky enough to have. We basically can spend quite an amount of time refactoring code, because they are basically living creatures. Your app is something that is alive, it changes over time. If you don't have the time and the mindset to keep on refactoring the code, write more tests, throw away stuff that it's barely used but is hanging there for some weird reason, or some old library that you cannot update anymore because the maintainer just disappeared, you need this kind of mindset in your team. And you need to push this kind of mindset to your managers too. Because if we don't code, they don't sell. If they don't sell, we have nothing to code, actually. We shut down everything and we go home. So, win-win situation. I can refactor the code a bit and they have a better product. Because if I can trust my architecture, my code base, next time that we need to estimate something, I know exactly. I mean, I have a kind of an idea what thing I'm gonna touch, and most of all, what can probably blow up. This is the real deal. I mean, you need to be aware of things that can blow up. And then you have to iterate. And tests are definitely something that you need to embrace. Having a testable code base, again, makes you sleep at night. I mean, don't get me wrong, 100% code coverage is, I'm not testing everything. You cannot test everything. Actually, you can test everything, but the thing is, the return of investment, it's negative. Don't get me wrong, testing is super cool, but if you have to pick what to test something that can be unit test, can be some end-to-end testing, or something that can run on your machine. So Espresso is kind of meh, but tests are the key, and you can achieve it with habits. These are books that I will suggest to. They really helped me. Pragmatic Programmer is quite a classic. Working Effective with Legacy Code. I mean, it's obvious that you will join a team at some point and the code is there, and everything that it's not tested is by design legacy code. So even if you write something today and doesn't have a test, legacy code. So it doesn't need to be old to be legacy. The art of readable code has a bunch of tips about improving the readability, and it's not something that you can do like out of, in one night. Takes time, and took me time, and making habits out of it. It's a very effective way to improve the team, the code, and it's a personal growth thing. If I tell you you have to write 100 tests per week, you would just laugh at me. If I tell you, can you write one single test every week? I mean, you can write one test. And that's the beauty of it. The moment you start writing that one single test, you probably will end up writing 5. And then you build the habit and the mindset switch. Most of the time we think that we work alone. It's not true. I mean, we are very programmers. We are getting a new floor because my ego won't fit in the office in the next 6 months. Yeah, one for each, of course. But jokes aside, we do a creative job. We don't have one solution for every single problem. And even if the problem is just one, be sure that there will be plenty of solutions. And most of the time, you have to compromise with your colleagues. You can learn from your colleagues. We use peer review in Clue, and it's a fascinating process because we basically never reject any pull request. It never happened. Because when you submit a pull request, I'm expecting that the thing works. I mean, if you're giving me the code, I'm expecting that the tests, if they are there, runs, that you didn't break anything else, and the task is complete. So you solved the problem with your first solution. Now I'm reviewing the code, and then I apply a different time or a different type of coding. I'm basically evaluating the style, or if you missed something, or this thing can be rewritten in this class. Oh, look, this manager that you wrote, we kind of have another thing in the far away package. There was just a provider to that. Can you use that? Or we are doing these things. Oh, sorry, there is no documentation. Can we do it in this other way? And that's it. And the rule that we have is that the moment you push your code to GitHub, the code is not yours anymore. The code belongs to the team. So we are very hard on the code and very kind on the person, because I want to work with you. So the moment you push the stuff on GitHub, that thing, it's kind of mine too. So I will beat the hell out of it because we need to improve it as much as possible. And this is something that is not easy because we have a very, very, very deep sense of ownership when we do things. And yeah, it takes time and takes effort and takes commitment to work with people in a healthy way and to move forward. You need to be humble and you need to be self-aware that you need to improve because we are doing something that, we're doing Kotlin. Let's be real. Last year, there was no Kotlin. It was Kotlin, but there was no Kotlin. 10 years ago, there was no Android. And again, this thing that we have, they were like 10 years old. The iPhone was 10 years ago. So everything is changing, and you need to change, and you need to be able to relate with people with the right attitude. So my last tip is, if the thing works, seriously, just blow everything. My moment. Let's try again. Forget. Men in Black. Bloop. Be brave. Look surprised. I'm serious. Takes balls to ask your colleagues a peer review. Takes even bigger balls to accept the fact that you suck at something. I mean, I delegate to Eugenio a lot of things because I know that they are harder for me and easier for him. And this is something that makes you evaluate the company where you work. And I wish that you work in a company that values your input and provides you the tools to improve as a professional and as a person. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, we have several minutes for the questions, and then we will finish up our session today. So, is there any questions? Okay.
So my question is regarding review process, because you said that this is important part. I guess it's important part of the whole process, so creating code and then the review process. So I think that I know how to write code, sometimes even in Kotlin, but I must say that I really suck at the review. I'm not sure if I know how to give a meaningful comment, and I'm not sure if I see the code by just looking at the diff. So my question is, is it a different skill, and can you somehow improve this skill, this reviewing process skill?
Yes, it was, thank you for the question, by the way. Peer review was something very new to me until last October, because I was working as a consultant, and when you basically work as a consultant, you are just a mercenary most of the time. You work for money, not for code reviews. The thing is, you need to be honest with yourself. You don't need to be sorry, feel sorry when you write a peer review. You just need to be honest and polite as much as possible. Giving feedback is not easy task. I mean, we had training about how to give feedback to colleagues and how to receive feedback. That's even a harder skill to master. So my advice will be, try to be honest and polite. Simple. I mean, if people get offended by your being honest and polite, you start a conversation there. So don't be sorry. Be brave. I mean, you are doing it for the good of the project. So you are not doing the review to the person. You are reviewing the code. So review the code. Seriously?
So what's your take on emojis in comments? Okay.
Yes. Actually, I don't know if we can do that.
We can now.
We can now. So yes, you will definitely see emoji in my comments. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
To follow up on that, what do you think about emojis in function names? Because you can do that in Kotlin.
This is escalating very quickly. The first emoji I find in a variable name or a function name, I will slap you. I'm just warning you. Honest and polite. You see? Honest and polite.
So, okay.
Any other question?
Yeah. Any other? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you.